And it is my pleasure to introduce Shanta. And Shanta is an extraordinary woman. She has a master's degree from SF State in psychology, culture, and cuisine. And she has written 2 cookbooks, one of which we have here, Flavors of India, which from what I understand is in its 7th printing, which is pretty incredible. And she is also one of the co-owners for Other Avenues. Has anybody ever heard of that club here in the city? Yeah. So really wonderful stuff. And she writes on plant-based nutrition and recipes for magazines such as India Current, and of course teaches vegetarian cooking. And we are so grateful to have her here with us today. So welcome, Shanta.
Thank you. Okay, I always start my demonstration by talking to you a little bit about my co-op. It's called Other Avenues, and it's in the outer sunset of San Francisco, which is about 35 blocks from here. Just drive on Lincoln Way, 44th, make a left-hand turn. It's on Judah. It's Judah and 44th. We have been in business for 40 years, and I have worked there for over 30 years. And we were very, very, very excited to have finished 40 years anniversary, and we celebrated in big ways last year. And the Veg Society people came to join our celebration, and that was really an additional pleasure. Is we have kind of similar mission. Vegetarian Society stands for sustainability, like my guru, that is Frances Moore Lappe, you probably remember her, said that if more people eat beans, we will have more beans for more people. So anyway, similarly, Other Avenues, because it is a vegetarian store, but also it's a green business in that we are worker-owned. We all own the business together, and that means that we make decisions together, and that end of the year, we also share our surplus. We are all on regular salaries. We all do just about everything, even though there are departments and everybody works in at least one or sometimes 2 departments. But we make all of our decisions together and try to rotate jobs. It's an unusual place. It's a unique, not just in location, because we are a block away from the Golden Gate Park, and we are just a few blocks away from the ocean. So we have best of the 2 worlds. Anyways, I have some literature from Other Avenues. We put out a newsletter, which is actually now online. We are going to go paperless starting next issue. So this issue came just recently, and it kind of celebrates the fact that we are now also all solar. So our entire roof is solar, and like last month, our bill was $30 as opposed to $450. So it's really amazing to have solar boost, and we made all this happen from the community support crowdfunded by people like you, people who shop at Other Avenues, and also a lot of people from other countries. It was all like nickel and dime, and we raised more than $45,000 from quite a few thousand people to make this happen. So it's really, really exciting. Anyways, that's Other Avenue story. And this story celebrates our solar power. You know, it's not just about saving money on, your PG&E bill, but it's also about saving the environment. And if more and more people have bicycles and solar powers and all the other things like wind energy and more cooperatives, then it'll be perhaps a better world. At least I think so. So the recipe that I'm going to do, there's kind of like a version of that in this book, but I always keep evolving as people ask me to do different things, such as gluten-free items, such as not fried appetizers, such as sugar-free desserts. So I keep inventing or reinventing things that, everything's actually always done. We just kind of keep reinventing, right? So my latest reinvention is I make samosa without deep frying. I always love samosa, but when I realized that deep frying wasn't all that great for you, not only because a lot of the oil it consumed, but also what happens to the oil in that higher heat. So I invented samosa pie, which is in this cookbook. And samosa pie is just like apple pie, you know. You just make the crust, and instead of putting apple and sugar or whatever else you make the pie sweet with, you put samosa filling. And samosa is normally made with potatoes, a little bit of peas, and I also add a little bit of carrots. Some people don't add carrots at all. And of course, it has spices. So the filling is potato-based, a little bit of peas and carrots and spices, a little bit of lemon juice. And then the outside is usually made with a pastry and then fold into triangle and deep fry. But instead, I invented these two recipes where you can do without deep frying. One of them is samosa pie, which is in this cookbook, and other is triangle made with phillo dough. Phillo dough is really wonderful, and I have been making a lot of wonderful things with phillo dough. One thing you have to remember, though, when you use phillo dough, that you have to get it, always comes frozen. So you have to remember to defrost it in the refrigerator. So it's really, really important, just like you set an alarm, you have to set a note to yourself that out of the freezer, you take out the night before, because it needs at least 6 or 8 hours of defrosting, not at room temperature. You can't quicken it by defrosting at room temperature. You have to defrost it inside the refrigerator. Now, there are quick methods that I have read by Googling how to defrost phillo quickly, and there are some tricks you can do in microwave, but I don't even own a microwave. And a lot of chefs said, no, even though it says that you can do it, don't do it, because it gets brittle when you defrost it using the microwave. Anyway, today I did remember to defrost it in the refrigerator, so it is defrosted. So I'm going to show you in a little while. But first I'm going to show you how to make the stuffing or the filling for the samosa triangles, okay? So I don't know what to call it, Pana copita, so it's a samosa copita, I don't know, something like that. So you first need to peel the potatoes. I'm doing it from scratch so that you know. And I don't have a peeler, but if you have a peeler, of course, that's better because it will be thinner. And I also didn't bring my skillet. I had a really, very, very busy week. This festival always comes after the inventory, where we have to count everything in our store. So we were all up until midnight just the night before. So it's a really tough week, so I forgot a couple of the things. But anyways, this can peel without a peeler. So all you need is a little pen knife or whatever you call this. Okay, what you have to remember is to cube this fairly small, because it's going to cook with very little water, okay? So I'm going to make into really small cubes after making some strips. And after that, I'm going to stir fry it. But if we don't have time, in order to make this thing speedier, I have brought some stuffing that's already made. And I'm going to pass it how the final product will look like. And this is all made without any water or very little water. So you can pass this. Just to show it to people what the consistency look for. Of course, it was in the refrigerator, so it has been cold. And the spices I'm going to be using for that is also here. So these are the spices. I think most of them do have labels. The label came off here. It's turmeric. Okay. No, this is fine. I will move. Okay, so the spices that will go in there are cumin powder, coriander powder, turmeric that doesn't have label. I'll pass that pretty soon. Cayenne is what makes your curry hot, so use cayenne very sparingly. Another thing is like people use curry powder and they ask me, well, why do I bother to buy these spices individually? Can't I just use curry powder? Well, of course you can, but Indian people don't use curry powder, okay? They just buy their spices individually. Sometimes they're whole, sometimes they're powdered, depending on the recipe, but they don't buy the things already mixed. And I think it's probably the British invented curry powder because they knew they wouldn't know how to use the spices individually. So anything that isn't good, we always blame it on British. So anyway, I don't use a curry powder because I like to use my spices separately as I cook. It's kind of like an orchestra where you don't have all the instruments going at the same time. You know, they take place and then they harmonize as the orchestra unfolds. It's kind of like that. Anyway, I'm going to pass this. There's also garam masala that I made myself with 3 spices, and they are written here. This garam masala is cinnamon, cloves, and cardamom. Okay, so that is garam masala. So I'm going to fry the potatoes, and then I'm going to add peas and little grated carrots. And she asked me to move up there. I keep forgetting. Okay. Little oil here. For the chutney. And the phillo. So what you do is cut this up into small cubes, like so. Line them up so they will all be small and kind of uniform, but it doesn't matter because most of them will be mashing up. Some people boil the potato first, and if you do it that way, it's okay, except parboil them. Because if you boil them too much, it will all get mushed up, and you wouldn't have any potato chunks in there. And somebody also asked me, maybe she was on a diet where you can't do nightshade. So she asked me, is there any way that you can do this without potato? So I tried it with butternut squash and yams, and I put little spinach in there. And it was really fabulous, except it didn't really give me the samosa fix that the potato is supposed to give you, right? Okay. So I also didn't bring the, I'm going to improvise a little bit. The onions, I'm putting ginger instead. And we will fry up the onion in the kitchen. And this is going to just cook a little bit. And then I'm going to cover and finish cooking in the kitchen. And we are going to use the stuffing that's going around to show you how to fold it, okay? So I need the spices once they get back here. But I can wait. I can wait for a few minutes. Oh, okay. Great, thank you. So while the potatoes are frying a little bit, I'm going to show you how to keep the phillos not breaking. So this is what it looks like, and I call this in the recipe log because that's what it looks like, a log. Okay. Now there is various way of using this. Like some people like to use it one sheet at a time, and that is fine. So spread the sheet out on your table. The way I did it that works the best so that it keeps my phillo fresh until I'm finished with the entire log is I cut through the whole log. And I'm going to get a little napkin to keep it moist. That is very important. So it's really moist right now, but if you wait too long at the room temperature, especially if your kitchen is hot, then it is really going to get brittle. So keep the rest in here, packed up into a kitchen cloth or a towel like this. This will keep it nice. You can sprinkle some water if your kitchen is really hot. Okay, and this you don't have to do with butter. So this is going to be totally vegan, okay? This is vegan, and so is this. So you can make the strip to be a little bit wider than this. I didn't cut it very uniform, but it doesn't really matter. Then you can use a pastry brush to make each strip moist, or you can just use your fingers. As long as your hands are clean. Okay, now I'm going to add the potatoes and peas in the, carrots and peas in the potatoes. And I can use the spices now.
How long should the scratch in the oven for?
What's that?
How long should it be in the oven?
Oh, until it's nice and warm. A few minutes. So I have made something like 60, 70 samosas for you to sample. So he was just asking me how long to warm it up for. So you'll get the real thing. May I have the spices, please? I'm trying to do two things, folding with the stuffing I already have and making the stuffing as well. So a little bit of, okay, you should measure it, not just sprinkle it. So don't do what I'm doing. A little bit of turmeric. And just a teeny amount of garam masala and teeny amount of cayenne. This is the garam masala. And to this, we are going to put 2 or 3 tablespoons of water and a tablespoon of lemon juice. Oops. Can you open this, guys? Okay, this can get finished cooking with 3 tablespoons of water. And then I'll put lemon juice on it. Okay, back to our filling. This is off now. So, if you're doing the samosa for the first time, okay, just use a small amount. As you get better as making this, by the 10th samosa or by the 30th samosa, you will be able to put more stuffing, okay? But first, just use a little bit and see how it goes. Have a bowl of water for your dirty fingers, which I don't have, so I'm using the paper. So it's kind of like that. It's really simple. And with the finger, I think you use less oil, just a dab. Okay. I'm going to do 2, 3 layer because they're very, very, very thin. Okay, just like that. And put a little oil. And then on the cookie sheet, you put a little bit of oil, not too much, because some of the oil will come out, so it's not going to stick. Just a teeny amount of oil will do it. Okay, I'm going to make another one. And if the first one has double layer, it is okay. You haven't ruined the recipe, because sometimes they're so thin that they stick together and you will have 2 instead of 1, and that is okay. Yeah. And I don't need it here because we already have the stuffing. So if you have any question about...
Could you cook this in the oven on a parchment paper instead of and use less oil?
Oh, probably so. Yeah, I haven't done that, but I'm sure if you use that Vexi paper, yes, indeed. But this is already very little oil, right? Okay, and try other kind of stuffing as well, such as kabocha squash. I even had some leftover wild rice that I had made, so I put some wild rice, and I put some mushed up pumpkin, and I put some dino kale, and it was really wonderful, and some spicy. So try to be experimental. You can do a lot of things. Phillo is really, really wonderful. But as you can see, if I'm talking and not working fast enough, it's already getting a little bit brittle. So you have to work fast. I fortunately had my daughter helping, and we had like a work party. Yes?
Can you slow down so we can see how you make that?
Thank you. Thank you for asking. I will really, really slow down, okay? So the first thing you make a fold that looks like a triangle. Then you go diagonal, another triangle. Keep going diagonally. Okay, slow enough?
Yeah, that's
Okay. And if you feel like at some point it is sticking, then put a little bit of more oil. Okay, then take another strip. The reason I like to cut the strip across is because the top one is the one that's dry. The bottom one still stays moist. And sometimes you may not get a perfect triangle. It really doesn't matter. They're still going to taste good. Okay. These are bite size. Usually they're bigger. If you have a big party and you're expecting a lot of people, you can make them small. And the way you will make them small is by cutting the strips not as wide and putting less filling.
It seems so nice to call for eating the spices in oil first, and then kind of adding vegetables after that. Have you seen that in practice, or does that make any difference?
And I don't think it will make much difference, but some of the spices, such as the onion, okay, kind of rule of the thumb in Indian cuisine, at least the way I was taught, is all the whole spices, such as onion and garlic, should go in the oil so the onion gets fried, and it gets a lot of the juice of the water worked out in the oil. Same thing with garlic. But that the powder spices should go after the main ingredients, after whatever the vegetables you're cooking, right? Because that way they don't get burnt. So if you're using like mustards or garlic or onion or whole cumin seeds, yeah, they should go in the oil. To answer your question? Okay.
And do you have a good way of keeping the phyllo dough fresh if you're not going to use whole log at one sitting? Do you refreeze it? Or?
Oh, yeah, you could definitely refreeze it, yeah. So what you do is you keep it inside a cloth, then you don't throw away the box, so you can put it in the box. And before you put it in the box, because you have thrown away the plastic that it was wrapped with, just take a saran wrap them with the saran, put it back in the box, and put it in the freezer. But if you put it back in the refrigerator, it still stays good for like 10 days. It does not go bad. Yeah. So that way you don't have to defrost it. This is really good food for a picnic or a potluck. Yes?
Can you freeze the samosas after you make them?
Absolutely. You can freeze it. In fact, because I wanted to make 60 or 80, I think, we really went to town. We baked some of them at night, and then we left about 30-ish in the refrigerator, not in the freezer, because we wanted to bake them in the morning, which I did right before coming. But if I didn't have time, I could have done and frozen it. But again, when you freeze it, make sure to defrost it in the refrigerator with the saran and all, with the wrap and all. Defrost it for several hours before you bake it. Okay. Otherwise, some of the leaves, the phyllo leaves, start coming off. I mean, which they do, and it's still okay because it's got a lot of protection, right? A lot of layers, so it doesn't really matter. In fact, I have seen pictures of spanakopita where you can actually see spinach. So if you get so good at this, you can just use 2 strips and have the ingredients see through and still not fall apart. So the idea is, the trick is to get as much stuffing as possible inside. I wish in my kitchen when I teach, you can all come and do it, and that would be really nice. So that is something I'm missing right now. Okay, so you got the ideas. If you have any question about the phillo or about the stuffing this, Michael. Right now I'm using olive oil. But you can use canola oil, you can use sunflower seed oil, peanut oil. I don't think it really matters. I used to make better butter to make this before I knew that olive oil really works well. And better butter is you melt the butter and you put the equal amount of olive oil or any kind of oil, and then you refrigerate again, and it becomes kind of semi-solid. And that, was really great. But when I found out that olive oil by alone works just as great, I went vegan on them. So after they are done like this, you can either put them in the refrigerator, but make sure they are wrapped in Saran really tight, because you don't want the moisture of the refrigerator to get inside, right? Or have the oven set at 415 or 400, depending on how well your oven works. My oven is like kind of in between. When after the 400, it doesn't really know the difference. So I always set at 400. So you bake it at 400 for about 15, 20 minutes. You'll see they'll fluff up and they will start getting a little bit brown. Okay? So that's what we're going to do a little bit later. Okay, so that's your samosa. Now, I'm going to show you how to make chutney, although we are not going to finish the process because I didn't bring the food processor, but I will show you the most difficult part of the chutney in the tamarind chutney is to deal with the tamarind, okay? Because a lot of you probably have never used tamarind. So this is what tamarind looks like, and I'm going to pass this. If you get it in a box like this from Chinese store, or there's a store on 22nd and Irving called Andy's, 22nd. It's a big produce store, they have it. But a lot of the Chinese markets have it. This is much better than the ones that I have seen in bulk in a big sack, and they are kind of sometimes don't look as fresh. So I'm going to pass this. The ideal ones are the ones that look kind of plump, okay? This is tamarind. This is a sweet and sour kind of chutney. So this is date. These are dates, just majul dates. Of course, take the pits out. And then we're going to put some ginger in there. But before I do that, what goes in there that makes the chutney sour is the tamarind. So first you take the skin off just like this. Then you take the membranes like these, okay? Like so. Get it? Okay. And then you don't have to take all the seeds out, even though you're not going to use them, because what we're going to do is we're going to soak it with water. Okay? So once we soak it with water, they will plump. And they will become almost like twice as big, and they will look like fuzzy. And then you take the essence of what we're going to use by rubbing it with your finger. I'll show it to you in a minute. Can you put some hot water here? Oh, okay, great. Okay. Your samples that you're going to enjoy are ready. Okay. So we are going to take the extract of the tamarind with the hot water, and what remains in the bowl is the seeds with a very, very thin layer of the membrane. So we are going to use the water of the tamarind, but it's more like a sauce, okay? And the finished product, I have to go get it. Can I get the tamarind chutney, please? The chutney. It's in a jar. Okay, so this needs soaking. Okay, so we are going to be soaking this for about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to pass this. So this is what it looks like, but in about 15 minutes, this water will become sauce.
So you're going to use the water?
I'm going to be using the water, but it's really going to become sauce, more like a sauce than water. And then to flavor that, all I have is ginger, cayenne, and salt. That's all. It's a very simple chutney. So chutneys and pickles are a little bit different. Okay, this is what it's going to look like, and I'm going to serve up the samosa with a tablespoon of this. Okay, so see how thick it is because of the dates. If you want this to be a little bit thinner, you can add a little bit of water. And another way of making the tamarind chutney is after you get the pulp to become a sauce, you dilute the sourness with honey, or you can dilute it with agave, or any kind of sweetener. You can even use date sugar or palm sugar or even coconut sugar. But when you use the powdered sugar, whether it's palm sugar, date sugar, or coconut sugar, you adjust that by adding more water. Am I getting it right? So yesterday we were tasting this, and I said, what's missing? I asked my daughter. And she said, these tamarinds aren't that tart. So we put some lime juice. So it's all into experimentation. So the idea of chutney or the pickles is to give an accent to your food. So my food is not spicy or it's not hot. So a lot of people don't know the difference between spiciness and hotness. Hotness is when, your tongue starts burning and the heat goes in your ear. That's hot. Spiciness is you have spices, it brings the flavors out, and then you put a little bit of lemon juice, and it's really, really delicious, and you don't mask the flavor of the food. So I like food to be spicy but not hot. But some people like it spicier, so they go for chutney, because chutney is giving it a spicy kind of an accent, okay? So pretty soon, I'm going to be serving you one triangle each person, I'm sure, and some chutney and some chai, okay? So right now, it's also a good time for you to ask me any question you have. I'm sorry I didn't have all the wares available to me. Yes? Okay, the question is, how do you make the chai? Okay, in India, chai is made with water and buffalo milk or cow's milk or goat's milk, okay? And the ratio in the chai, water to milk, is 2:1. So you have 2 water and 1 milk. And we have kind of interesting saying that if you have a guest, and the guest is kind of a questionable kind of person, then you put more water. But if it's an honored guest, like somebody, who's going to arrange the marriage for your daughter, then you put more buffalo milk. So, but this one is the classic recipe. It's got 2 water and 1 soy milk. There's no milk in here. Everything here is vegan today. Soy milk really works well with chai. In fact, when you put the garam masala in the chai, you don't even notice the difference that you didn't have real milk. Okay, so soy milk, I think, works the best in chai instead of milk. Other milk that does work well is almond milk. Okay, I have made chai with hemp milk. I have made chai with oat milk. They all work so-so. I think the soy milk works the best, and almond milk would be the next best. Anyways, any more questions? So that's your chai, 2-part water, 1 part milk. You boil it together with garam masala. In this case, the garam masala that I made has 1/3 cinnamon, 1/3 cardamom, 1/3 cloves. I toasted them together, then ground them in a coffee grinder, and it keeps for weeks. And that's how I make it every day. And I use a few pinches of that in my chai. The recipes are in the book, yes. Okay. Yes, sir.
So when you put the tamarind in the hot water,
Yeah.
did it break down into a liquid over time?
It will take about 15 minutes. If the tamarinds are old and dry, it might take half an hour. But I will show you. It's been about 10 minutes. It's already plumped up.